All right, hey everybody. Listen, we apologize for the technical difficulties that the platform kicked us off, but we are back on and we are live, and we have this great giant that was absolutely blessing us tremendously, and I'm so glad that Pastor Pastor Baskin was able to get his thought out before it kicked us off. But I absolutely believe that there's much more that this prophet has to say. So right now, again, I want to make sure that everybody to like, and I need everybody to share once again, because we're going to go a little deeper into conversation. And so, Bishop, I want to use what just happened to push us back into our conversation.
Okay.
With just what happened now, using technology out of necessity, because
Mm-hmm.
otherwise you and I would probably be at Jackson's having breakfast with together and just talking together. But now
Right.
we use technology.
Mm-hmm.
So as with pastors having to, as you talked about, being creative, as pastors have had to now find other means and through technology, figure things out.
Mm-hmm.
There are times in which technology doesn't act as sanctified as we want it to be, and
Mm-hmm.
and things just don't turn out the way that we want to, and especially when we're accustomed to an in-person flow where we can manage, and even if the mic goes out, we've learned how to preach without a mic, if
Yes.
necessary. But when the computer goes out, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so how do can you speak to those that are seemingly get frustrated with technology and trying to just make it work, even though it seems sometimes to be impossible?
Well, I think the good, the bad, the pros and cons of this internet, which is a blessing. It's been a
Mm.
blessing for a while. It's going to increase now, even after we are allowed to go back to some modicum of in-house worship. There's still going to be a need for this social networking, Facebook, whatever, Zoom, to continually reach not only the faithful members of our fellowships,
Hmm.
but people who are not connected, unbelievers or non-believers, or used to be, followers, are able to reconnect with at least the body of Christ on internet that
Right.
were not able to do in house. So I think that's going to be one of the strong points going forward. It's not either or; it's both and.
Right.
But the thing is, how do we capture and maximize our ministry without compromising, without downsizing what we know is important?
Mm.
Just because there's a limited time usually on streamers,
Right.
and there's certain things you really have to cut out in order to fit in that and make it meaningful. You have an audience now that's less patient than the
Yeah.
in-house audience. I was listening to a Zoom last week from Bishop Ellis's ministry, was led by Pastor Jamal, and had a lady on from Maryland. I think she's from Maryland, Virginia, and she was saying that on the internet you have from 3 seconds to 3 minutes to capture your audience
Mm.
online,
Three
and
seconds.
three. She said 3 seconds. The guy pushed
Wow.
her to 3 minutes. She said when you come on, you have to come on hitting it.
Wow.
You can't come on, just filibustering around. They'll flip you off because they have options now they didn't have before.
Right.
See,
Right.
before, if they come to New Macedonia and your service starts and it's kind of dragging, or things are going, whether the mic goes out or whatever, and they'll sit another 15 minutes to say, I can still make friendship. I still got time to run to Church X. It's
Right.
only 10 minutes away or 5 minutes. Now they can flip in seconds. They can go to another channel
Right.
to see what the other church is doing on online. I'm not saying it's competitive, but I'm saying it's the adversity of it all now is we've got to have a creative approach to reaching even what is online or in house now in a way that people's hearts are reached. A lady said something this summer, well, the beginning of what last month, I mean last December. She said the gospel is only reached when people hear it in their mother's language.
Mm.
And I said, what is this? She unraveled it that everyone around the world will receive the gospel only when they hear it in their language, the mother
Wow.
language or their native. So you can reach their head, but if you want to reach their heart, you have to speak their language.
Right.
And so I tapped that into the internet. That there is a language for those people who watch particular millennials or non-millennials. There is a language. There is a level that they are willing to listen to what you're presenting because most of what we present online is
Hmm.
preaching.
Right.
We do a little praise and worship up front, but the main thing of online is the message, preaching message,
Right.
and you gotta bring it, and you
Yeah.
gotta bring it to where they are, what they need to hear for that day, or they'll switch off.
Right.
And I'm not saying it's like a smorgasbord or you pick them stuff. I'm saying we as pastors need to be attuned to not only the word of God, but the world in which people are living.
Yeah.
The world in which they're living. The word addresses it, but
Right.
we've got to be astute enough how to deliver that into their culture. We got to study the culture. This
Yeah.
culture is shifting so fast, Pastor, it makes your head swim.
Yeah. It does.
I mean, really, what used to be 10 years to obsolescence, it's now less than a week. Really, from Sunday to Sunday, everything shifts.
Right.
What was hot last week may not be hot. So, and that's really a challenge to you, young pastors. I glory in the fact that I'm out of that, but uh, you, you, it's a reality. You have an audience now that is multi-leveled,
Right.
and you've got to walk through that.
Yeah.
See,
Walk
see,
through.
see in house, you pretty much know who you're speaking to on Sunday,
Right.
with the exception of a few visitors who may come in, but you pretty much know the people of New Macedonia. Every
Right.
age group who show up on Sunday, you pretty much know how to communicate to them.
Hmm.
But you're communicating with not only New Macedonia when you're online, you're communicating with a world out there
Right.
with all kinds of ideologies and ideas. And so, using this new platform, and we were talking last week with Eddie and some other pastors on Zoom, is that even they are now catwalking through a different milieu that some of them said they're not really sure that they're excited about reopening the church.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there are a lot of people, Pastor Wonder told me there are some older members of New Way say they're having so much fun at home on Sunday. They can, have their pajamas on and drinking their coffee in that hour of
Right.
service, and then after that, they're free to do whatever they want to do. So they're not sure. They're looking forward to the church reopening and
Yeah.
having to drive to church and park and get out and that kind of thing. So we're dealing with parameters now that 6 months ago we weren't even thinking about, or 4 months ago.
Right.
But God has all, and there's another thing this lady said on Tuesday. We're reaching now, the gospel is reaching people at a faster pace than ever before. And it could be the getting the gospel to the world now is going to be sped up so fast. through the
Mm.
internet, but we've got to make sure we're giving them the gospel
Wow.
and not just entertaining or just presenting something, but it's got to be the gospel because some people are really getting saved online.
Yeah. Yes,
And then
sir.
the other question is, I don't know how this fit in with your question, but there are three levels. And this lady brought this up. There are three levels of listening online.
Mm.
I mentioned the first one. If you're streaming and New Macedonia members are listening in, but there are other folk listening in at the same time.
Right.
Uh, they're coming to the front door. She called it you bring people in the front door.
Front door.
They enter into your church virtually, not physically.
Right.
Virtually, they are inside New Macedonia when you are sending out your message.
Right.
Now, those are people who could go in and out on you. They they may not even finish the presentation because they're
Right.
checking another church, they're checking another ministry throughout that
Wow.
same time zone. All right, not they don't like what they just see what's happening over there. The second thing is she said the second wave is what she called your internet church.
Mm.
The internet church of people who lock in with you. They're going to come back next Sunday,
Right.
and they're going to click on the Givelify, whatever cash app, whatever giving platform you have at your church to give, and they'll click on that and get digital giving. She said, now those people are your online or internet social media members,
Mm.
but and they only give where they receive.
Okay.
Yeah, they give what they receive online.
Right.
That which means they got to be online that Sunday to give, or during the week they might do it during the week. Now the two other levels, there is a what they call a discipleship internet membership,
Okay.
which means you can do Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday, whenever. You can do some group disciple teaching,
Mm.
and they'll join in whatever night or whatever day or whatever it is. And those are your discipleship. Now these are the people who will be able to grow in their faith
Mm.
because they're not getting it all on Sunday, but on Tuesday, whenever they're in the internet classroom, and you're teaching them discipleship principles. Then she
Right.
said that the bigger picture. Now this is where it really explodes. Is that when you create an online membership group ministry where
Okay.
multiple people are joining in from different platforms on that particular night or day, whenever. And if you go on Zoom, they can see each other.
Mm.
They can even talk to each other digitally.
Right.
While the thing that you can ask a question, say a family, a group meeting in a family's home. You can say, okay, the Johnson family ask a question. They want to know if a person is saved, could ever be lost.
Right.
And you say, all right, I'm gonna have the Jackson family to answer their question, and they see them on Zoom. They can see each other, though in different locations. They feel digitally connected, and
Right.
even though they're not physically connected, they are connected online, and they have a sense of church community. This is your what they call church community now, though it's digital. And now they not only connect with you in New Macedonia, they connect with each other
Mm.
back and forth and feel a part of, connected to the larger group. Now,
Man.
now this is the bigger challenge because I hear pastors say, "Oh man, we had 500, we had 600, we had 1,000 viewers last Sunday." All right, how many of them are connected to you?
Right.
How many
Yeah.
of them will be back Sunday, the next presentation? How
Yes,
many
sir.
of them? How many of them will give? And then how many of them will connect on a deeper level with the internet, the fellowship, discipleship, and the larger fellowship community, and that's when you say that's your internet or church family, and
Wow.
they are connected directly to New Macedonia. They can
But,
watch they can watch others. But also she kept reiterating they only give where they are receiving
mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
online.
Right.
Now some of them will cross over. They'll give to several ministries,
Right.
but they have a main ministry that they feel connected to. They're always going to give to that,
Wow.
but they
Bishop,
feel a sense of community.
Bishop, you really hit something. I don't want to miss this, because well, first of all, I want to make sure everybody that's watching, make sure you share this video, because Bishop is talking with. I mean, he's talking it like he's been doing this virtual church for years. I mean, the stuff that you bringing up, Bishop, is absolutely remarkable. And I want to kind of hit something that you touched on, because I was telling a friend of mine, a young pastor, that I said what I believe God has allowed to happen with this whole pandemic is that we've seen the fall of an old idol
Oh
of
yeah,
counting how many people you got in church,
oh yeah,
and the success of your church is built upon how many people were there on Sunday morning.
yep,
So now that idol has fallen on its face, like like the idol Dagon in the temple. It's
yeah,
fallen on its face. But
yeah,
however, I feel as if we as a church, though the Lord has delivered us from Egypt in a sense, we still building golden calves in the wilderness, because now guys are looking at the numbers of how many people are watching my stream to
hmm,
now place the old idol and say, I got, like you said, I got 1,000 people that watch my broadcast, last week, and we'll glory in that. But as
hmm,
you mentioned, the question is, how many of them are really connected to your ministry? How many of them are just coming through the
yeah,
front door? They
yeah,
came, they looked inside, and they walked right out.
absolutely,
How many of
yeah,
them, are just on there on Sunday mornings, and they'll lock in, but they're not going to do too much more than that? How many are discipleships? That
yeah,
they'll go during the week, and then how many are actually connected to one another? And so, all of that takes tremendous work and intentionality,
yes,
for the pastor and the ministry to work that together.
hmm,
And that can be a very frustrating process, because
yeah,
honestly, Pastor, it seems like that takes more work than just coming into a church building on Sunday morning.
yes, yes,
And yeah, so it what you said, man, it is, man. I cannot tell you, I can't explain how amazing that insight is. But I want to, if I can, I want to take you, I want to kind of lead you into a little bit more choppy waters, um,
okay,
if you're willing to do so, because I think that many of us have placed major emphasis and um, major thoughts and attention on the church, and rightfully so. But we haven't had a lot of conversation about denominational gatherings and
okay,
organizations,
okay,
um, and whether it be Baptist, Pentecostal, Kojic, AME, Methodist, Full
hmm,
Gospel, what have you. Um,
hmm,
there are some organizations that are making the shifts, others that are resistant towards the shifts, of technology, others that, are just saying, we're going to wait till it's over. And others are saying, we're just going to dive in and just, swim with the current. Um,
hmm,
how would you, what would you say to those organizations that are kind of trying to figure out and make the decision of how to navigate through these uncharted territories?
Well, first of all, we have to recognize whether it's, starting at the local church, pastor, all the way to denominational leadership, is that we are now in a new norm.
Hmm.
Whether we agree with it or accept it or not, things of old are gone.
Right.
We cannot go back to church as usual, even when the day comes. And I think within a couple of weeks, 3 weeks or so, churches are going to be free to reopen gradually.
Right.
With the distancing and all the other precautions eventually. But even that part, you can't go back to where it was 3 months ago or four
Right.
months ago. Don't even anticipate that. Members have changed their attitudes and everything. I would say, without cursing or disdaining this social media, is to bless it
Yeah.
in the sense. I want to say this too, and I hope no one take this wrong. But there are some churches that may not make it through this crisis.
Mm.
They will be forced to close.
Wow.
Uh, a lot of them because of the lack of financial support, as well as people are not really willing to come back to the old standard. It's going to be 6 feet distance, and a whole lot of things going to be on for a while.
Right.
But the other thing, the older members are afraid of catching the virus, and the whole mindset of what church is now has been forced out. See, church used to be building in
Right.
people's mind. They
Exactly.
always associated church. I'm going to church. They were talking about a building. Now, for 3 months, the building is shut down.
Right.
So we're realizing all the time that church has never been the building. That's the place the church gathers.
Right.
The church are the people of God, the believers. That's the church scattered.
Right.
The church now, it was spoken, I think, last week. Every home now has become a cathedral.
Mm.
Every home now, because of social media, on Sunday, if there's a husband or a man in that house, he's a pastor.
Right.
He gathered his family around what they're watching and listening to, and he's becoming the priest of his house.
Right.
Every home now has become a miniature church,
Right.
and that's good. Matter of fact, the church started there
Right.
in homes. The day of Pentecost was in a building.
Mm-hmm.
They went from house to house. It was
Mm-hmm.
a long time before they got buildings. That's one thing about the denomination. But
Mm-hmm.
realizing, see, the denomination. I was thinking the other day. I don't know why you brought this up. Just yesterday, I was thinking, if the church is not, if the church doesn't survive, the association, the union, the conventions won't survive,
Right.
because the conventions and associations and all of those things are made up of churches,
Right.
all of the national convention. And if churches are not healthy or alive or functioning, these denominations won't function because they're built on church membership
Mm.
support. Now, if they're funded by some foundation, they can do whatever they want to without church support. Now they can go on, but the idea of conventions or the amalgamation of churches coming together to do together what they couldn't do apart.
Right.
So when the denominations are not really flowing into this is the new norm, and this is going to be around not just for this pandemic. It's
Right.
going to be around forever. I feel the church has changed forever now. Now, I'm not saying everything that's good in the church will go down the tube,
Mm-hmm.
but there are some things we can't plug in anymore. They won't work anymore.
Wow.
Everything has shifted globally, not just nationally and locally, but
Right.
globally. Everything has shifted with this pandemic. And
Mm-hmm.
it won't come back. It won't come back exactly the way it used to be. And can I tell you this? Don't tell anybody else. And I hope other people won't hear this. There's some things that should have died, but they dying now.
Right.
There are some traditions, and listen at this. There are some traditions that outlive their usefulness
Mm,
that won't come back after this pandemic.
my God.
I'm telling you the truth.
Talk, Bishop.
They're not coming back. Nobody's interested in that anymore. And
Right.
it wasn't working too good before anyway, but we tolerated it. Oh, come on, Pastor. We tolerate. I know I have. We tolerated,
Talk,
and
Bishop.
now the COVID-19 has demolished all of it. The mega churches and the mini churches and the small church. Everybody in the same boat now.
Wow.
Everybody. I listen to Bishop Jakes. All of these old churches are feeling the impact of empty pews.
Mm,
Even though people are giving online, people and new way people drive to the building and drop it in the mailbox if ain't nobody around.
right.
Thank God for those people. Thank God for them. But I'm gonna tell you who they are. They are the old members who have been with New Way from its
Mm,
beginning, who tied into tithing,
right.
and they are not, even if they can't come to church on Sunday, they're going to make sure their offering gets the New Way.
Right.
Now, listen at this. That group is not going to live much longer. You know, they are now in their 70s and 80s.
Right.
And we're not raising up the generation behind them who are tied into not only tithing, but total support of the church. I'm sorry, but that day is shifting. And so as a result, everything now is moving. And we've got to move with it creatively. We got to get ahead of it. In other words, we got to have vision.
Yeah.
See, vision is seeing beyond the obvious.
Mm,
Vision is not. See, a lot of pastors are discouraged now because they're looking at the present and it's looking gloomy.
right.
They're not seeing 5 years down the road or 10 years what this is going to be. That we're going to be beyond this. And we got to look beyond this virus now if we're going to be effective in the future. We got to have a vision for post coronavirus.
Mm,
What the church going to look like? What we need to do? We need to train up a new cadre of these young people, millennials and youth, and to get them ready for the shift.
wow.
And some of them already held the head of the church in terms of thinking. And so we've got to get in there now and create a new dynamic. And you mentioned a denomination. I don't want to go there too much, but for the most part, our denomination, a black denomination, have gotten stuck in the past,
Mm,
and some of them are not willing to risk the future change.
right.
And some of them had made changes. I have to take my hat off. But in the midst of those changes, I still see some things that need to be changed. Not just because we want to change them; they need to be changed.
Right. Right. Bishop, there's a couple of things that you said,
Yeah,
well, there's a whole lot of stuff that you said that just absolutely just boggles my mind. But one thing that you brung out that I don't think that we really uh, paid much attention to, in the fact that you're absolutely right that the older generation is on the sunsets of their journey,
yeah,
and they're about
yeah,
to go get their reward. And so
hmm
those are the people that have been carrying churches, and especially
yeah,
in the black church context. They've been carrying
yes,
churches. They've been faithful because that generation grew up with the principles of commitment, right? And then
absolutely.
with the teachings from revolutionary leaders like yourself. And my granddad as well, Pastor Arthur Jackson, the late Arthur Jackson Jr.,
Yeah.
started teaching tithing instead of just dues, teaching
Yeah.
tithing. And then, when that generation hooked onto it, the principle of tithing connected with the principle of commitment merged together, in which the church began to really
Mm-hmm.
grow and sustain. Now, we have the millennial generation and those that's behind us. Um, it if it was hard enough to get them to tithe when they would come to church to a building.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Yeah.
with there being with there being everything online, how much more daunting is the task of trying
Yeah.
to instill these principles inside of the upcoming generations that honestly should have been instilled in them before the pandemic even happened. But now,
Yeah.
even more
Right.
so, there's a need for that. And so that's awesome. But I do want to also ask you this question and kind of tack on this question to it as well,
Mm.
because
Okay.
this is the question that I've been wrestling with and been trying to get some clarity from God and talking with great minds like yourself of what does the church, what should the church look like after Corona?
Mm-hmm.
What we look like now is out of necessity, but when necessity is over, as far as when all this passes away, what should the church look like? There are going to be some that's going to try to go back to where it's been, and they're going to find out that that shoe has gotten too small and it's going to be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're
Yeah.
going to try to make a shift in one way or direction or another. But from what you've seen and what you've heard and what's been in your spirit, how do you think the church, what should be the church's remodeling look like? How should the church operate after Corona? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, I think for me, and of course, I'm in a generation removed from some. I see that there is a need, and there will be a continuous need to gather in a facility, whatever the size and whatever the numbers and whatever those things that comply with that. I see that there will be a church of the future. It's going to be smaller. It's going to be
Mm,
smaller in terms of numbers because of I think this virus has ushered in an awareness that we're going to have to live with pandemics for a while, one after the other. Because right now, by the time we get relaxed with this one, the flu season starts in November.
mm,
So we're going to have to be, giving shots and preparations. And pandemics, according to these scientists, are getting worse, not better.
mm.
And they don't have any vaccinations for any of them. So as they pile on, so I see the church numbers are going to be smaller. I also see our presentation in the gathered body is going to change.
Mm,
And what I mean by that, we've gotten a taste of church now online that is more comfortable, is more culturally driven. And
mhm.
so the traditional church setting that we've had before is going to have to make some serious adjustment to capture the generation 50 and under
Wow.
going forward in the next 10 years or what. And we've already seen a shift in that. Millennials and youth, we've already seen that already. I know
Right.
we saw it at New Way before, long before I left New Way. We were experiencing a shift from millennials.
Mm.
They were going to upstart churches that pastor wear skinny jeans and a sweatshirt and dirty sneakers I mean they got caught on it. I didn't like it, but they told me Bishop, get used to it.
Mitchell said dirty.
Bishop, I said, well, what if I get on me some sneakers and some jeans and a t-shirt on Sunday? You
Right.
know, She said they ain't gonna receive it from you because they know what your age is,
Yeah.
and you can't do it like Rick Wilkerson do it. So she said,
Right.
I'm not gonna draw them. You can dim the lights and make the church black and look like a club on Sunday morning with flashing lights. She said that's not gonna get them. So
Right.
they I said, well, what will get them? She said the word. I said, well, I've been trying to preach the word, and so
Yeah.
when you say what the church would look like, it's going to be smaller. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
be more intentional in everything it does on Sundays or whenever they gather.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be more driven toward now what I believe more biblically driven ministries. All the Hollywood fluff, all that stuff is gone. Even the millennials are getting tired of fluff.
Wow.
So that's not going to work. But the genuine thing is, it's going to be tailored down some. Some stuff going to be cut out that people like. But
Right.
you're going to have to come back over that. Freddie Haynes was on. Barbara Skinner called us in. You may have seen it.
Yeah, I was
She
there.
called us. Yeah, yeah. You saw that. And
Right.
and Freddie said that but he preached on the empty pews. But he talked about Dr. Booth, who died a couple of years ago.
Right.
He said when this '08 when the economic crash, the real estate thing banks, and he said Dr. Booth said, "Oh, now we're gonna get back to real preaching now." And he said, "Why?" He said, "Oh, we've been preaching about name it and claim it and all that kind of stuff, that prosperity gospel, it ain't gonna work now because everybody out of jobs and the economy has crashed. So you got to go back and preach some Jesus now, some Bible."
Right.
He said, "I'm
Right.
I'm looking forward to the church getting back to the basic of preaching the Word of God." So he said, after this pandemic, he read he reread Dr. Booth's book. He said, now after this pandemic, what we're doing now, preaching, we don't have that many minutes online,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever we preach online got to be hot, but it got to
Right.
be solid biblical. It got to be biblical. You
Gotta
can't
be
get
back.
up there with some jive stuff and motivational speaking. That
Right.
they ain't hearing that. They can't even get their unemployment check.
Wow.
So and so those kind of things are I feel. The other thing is the church is going to have to move outside of itself. This new
Mm.
church is going to be more missional. It's going to be more outreach. It's going to be beyond
Right.
itself. It's going to be feeding the masses like we're doing now. It's going to be giving people groceries. It's going to be ministering life, not on the physical level alone, but even the mental level. There are people now so depressed. Some are committing suicide.
Mm.
And this pandemic has raised the level of depression that the ministry now is going to be toward people in mental health, getting people solid again. Because there are
Right.
people sitting home for 8 weeks. They got to go. They're about to go bananas. They're about to climb the wall.
Right.
They can't go anywhere hardly. And so this new church, after this is over, and when we say over, I don't know when it's going to be over ever. But the new church is going to be more missional. It's going to be more driven toward meeting the needs of people. It's going to be more communal, relating. Now, one of the things that this pandemic has done is forced people to be home and relate to each other as family because
Mm-hmm.
they can't go nowhere. But
Right.
it's also driving the church to recognize community is what the church is built on.
Mm.
And that's the thing that's why I said there will be some level of gathering in the facility
Right.
because a church is strong when it's being in community. We
Right.
grow in community. We
Right.
thrive in community. We serve in community. We share Christ together in community. So there will be community driven ministries going
Mm-hmm.
forward. That's going to be
Right.
it's very missional, very communal, and less political.
Mm,
Maybe I shouldn't say that, but it's going to be less political.
right. That's good.
We are discovering our political system has failed us. We're seeing it every day on the news. Our
Right.
political system is in bad shape.
Yeah.
It it didn't just get there; it's been there for years. But
Talk,
this
Bishop.
pandemic has exposed. I was talking to some pastors. We talk about we're the richest nation on earth. That's a lie. We broke and we indebted to China. We got to borrow money from the federal bank. Hello,
Talk, Bishop.
we don't. We got to get our medication from foreign countries.
Right.
I was shocked to see they were importing vegetables from China, while in Homestead farmers have to plow their things into the ground because the market doesn't want them anymore.
Right.
But
That's
we're
amazing.
importing carrots from China, and we got carrots in Homestead
Yeah. That yes,
and
sir.
tomatoes and all this other stuff. We're importing that because our politicians are getting tariffs from the imports.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
and this pandemic showed our health system isn't ready.
Mm-hmm.
It has ravaged our whole health system, our
Wow.
pharmaceuticals. And you can't tell me we don't have enough smart scientists and biochemists cannot come up with a treatment for this virus.
Yeah.
And we got to wait a year and a half and more
Gotta
people
wait.
die. And
Yeah.
they can do that. They got laboratory. These guys make billions of dollars profit every year, these
Yes, sir.
pharmaceuticals. And you mean to tell me they cannot come up with a treatment? I'm not talking about, a vaccination. I'm talking
Right.
about a treatment.
Right.
You need a treatment when the thing has already hit you. You need a vaccination before it comes. You know I'm right. They
Yeah,
give
you're
you the
right,
flu
Bishop.
shot. They give you a flu shot pre-flu season. They don't give it to you while the season is on.
Right. Bishop, you
It has
talking
to
truth,
have
man.
time. It has to have some weeks to get into your system to build up the resistance to the flu.
Right.
So the vaccination come before the season.
Right.
Treatment come while you're sick.
Right. Why you got it?
Yeah. And you can't tell me all these billions and billions of dollars spent in research and medical technology, and we got robots now. We got the computer can outthink man, and they can't come up with a treatment.
Wow.
I'm sorry, I got off on that, but
No, Bishop, man.
that's why I
That's
said we're going to have to be less. The church really shouldn't have been involved as deep as we are now. And I'm not talking about not voting. I'm not
mhm.
talking about an understanding that we need to get the best candidates elected. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about being splintered over
Mhm.
politics. I got some people now won't talk to me if I let them know I'm a Democrat.
Wow.
When Hillary was running, I almost slapped some Hispanic pastors. I really did. I came within seconds of slapping them because they were all for Trump.
Right.
And it didn't bother me. I'm for Hillary. You for Trump. Let's eat. That was my position. So
Right.
one day they were talking about Trump and Trump and Trump, and I wasn't saying nothing. Baskin, who you for? I said, well, I'm okay. I'm good. I didn't want to tell them. They pushed me. Oh, come on, man. Don't tell me you for Hillary. And that's lit my light. I said, yes, I'm for Hillary. I'm a Democrat. I'm voting for Hillary, and ain't none of your business. You
Right.
can't be voting for Hillary. She stole money from the Haitians, and they pro-abortion and they pro lesbian. And I said, do you think only Democrats are lesbian?
Yeah, it's true.
Are only Democrats having an abortion?
Right.
You gonna tell me that the Republicans don't have abortion? Oh, come
Right.
on, man. So I said, I don't discuss politics. If you for Trump, be for Trump. If I'm for Hillary or Biden, leave me alone. Let's eat. You
So
know,
you
don't
think
try to,
it's
don't
moving
try to,
toward
don't convince me one is bad and the other one is good. All of them got some problems.
right? And so the church, from what you've seen, is moving towards that kind of thinking, and where it's become less political and putting more priorities on the gospel and
Yeah.
transformative living.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
awesome. That's awesome.
Absolutely. That's
That's
our
awesome.
calling. In other words,
Yeah.
see, the church has to be, it has to be in a position it can speak to both sides or all sides.
Right. Right.
But our hands are tied. If you for one group, you cannot speak truth to power.
Mm-hmm.
You see, and we have to be. Have you noticed that there are no people, prophets, being raised up now to speak to the heart of the issue of our nation? Either they're on one side or the other,
Wow.
and they lose their voice.
Right.
They lose their impact. And
Right.
the gospel is across the board. The gospel is for whom that whoever believes, shall be saved. And that's why I said that church has to be missional, evangelistic, and we have an evangelistic tool now with the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, see the people. Listen at this: the people who own these platforms, some of them are atheists.
Mm.
Oh, you know that.
Right. Absolutely.
And sooner or later, they're going to say, you preachers can't talk about Jesus on your platform on Sunday. If you do, we're going to cut you off.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen. It has happened once. I got a thing last month for a guy from Bradenton. He had all his people to post the Lord's Prayer. And he got a call from, I don't know, what's Google or one of those platforms, told him that they cannot publish, mention the Lord's Prayer on your presentation. So he,
Oh
he
wow.
got on, he told, I want all of you, thousands and thousands of you, just print it, the Lord's Prayer. Don't say nothing, just put it in. And they did it. And so many was on there, they decided wouldn't bother the
Wow.
platform, they wouldn't change. But he said they were telling him, the Lord's Prayer is offensive to some people.
Wow.
Really? Who was that's so so
so
because it's offensive to
so
some people, we take it off. It's offensive for you to take it off to me because I believe in it.
right.
You
Right.
let
Absolutely.
Muslim put their prayer on anyway.
Right. So, Bishop, I wanted to first of all, I want to thank you for your time, Bishop, and your patience,
All
and
right,
everybody that's been on.
all
I
right,
know that we had the
all right,
technical difficulties, um, but
all
but
right.
as we wind this conversation, I do want to ask one last question, and Bishop is gone. Oh man, listen, I've had a blast with Bishop Baskin, and I mean he just absolutely blessed us tremendously. I'm praying that each and every one of us, everybody that was able to be on, that you'll listen to the first video that we put up at 2 o'clock, as well as this one. We're going to try on our end to merge the two, so it'll be one long one video together, because the wealth of wisdom that this prophet has given us has absolutely blessed us in a tremendous way. So I want us to please make sure that you like and you share this video across your platforms, and let everybody know that this man of God, Pastor Billy Baskin, just absolutely blessed us in an absolutely tremendous way. I want us to take away the fact that and hey to Pastor Alfonso Jackson Sr. My father did a tremendous job on this last week, and he set the pace for us as well. Want to also give a shout out to Pastor Michelangelo Clark, my brother, man. Glad to have you on, man. Glad you were on. And then my uncle, Pastor Emmanuel Whipple, man. Listen, Unc, man, look forward to a text message from me because I need you at the Tim Talk table, and we need to hear about what's going on, even in California. We want you to be at the table, Unc, man. So I've been, matter of fact, I just told my brother Martez yesterday that I need you on, man. So we're gonna make that happen. But yeah, so we thank God for everybody that was on. But one of the things that Bishop mentioned that I want to make sure that we remember that number one, he mentioned the fact that not everyone who comes onto our platform, we should be overly celebrating. And because there are some people that just meet us at the front door and they'll come in on our Sunday morning or midweek broadcast. You know, they'll come in, they'll look in, they'll listen to you for a couple seconds, and then they're out and they go on to another church and they church hopping real good online. And so he said those numbers, you can't really get excited about those numbers because those numbers don't lead to transformation. Second number, he said those are the ones that are locked into your church. Those are the ones who not just look through the front door, but they sit inside of your cyber church and they're there with you on Sunday mornings. They may even give. But surprisingly, I would have thought that should be who you should be excited about. But Bishop suggested that those individuals, they only give what they get. And so they only gonna, they only get Sunday morning. That's all they're gonna give towards. But yet that doesn't. He suggests that doesn't necessarily lead to transformation in itself as well. You got to go deeper than that. He talks about discipleship group, those that will come to and engage more than just on Sunday mornings, but they'll come to Bible study or Sunday school, virtual Sunday school. They're engaged throughout the week. And he said that's good, but the group that you want to look for are for those who will be a part of the community and that will connect with others in the church and won't just come and just watch a good sermon and then leave, but they'll participate. All right. So we closing out. We closing this out, but we want to we want to make sure that we get today that we want to make sure that what we're looking at as far as in our numbers, that it's a blessing and that we look holistically at, are we engaging people within our churches? Are we adding value to them? Are they growing? Are they developing? Are we teaching millennials about stewardship within the church? How are we moving? How are we really cultivating a culture of people that can do transformative work? God bless you all. Listen, I'm finished. I'm done. Thank you all so much for being a part of this conversation. And look for us again next week. Look for us again next week, Tuesday at 2:00, and for another discussion on at the Tim Talk table. God bless you. And Bishop, you back on with us?
Yeah, my phone went out on me.
Okay, man. Glad to have you on, man. I thought we lost you.
Yeah.
Bishop, since you're back on, there's only one more question I have for you, and that you can just give us word of encouragement. There have been a lot of pastors
who, as a matter of fact, I just talked to one of my pastor friends who has stepped away from his church and has, just said, listen, I need a break from this because all of this is too much. I'm sure, Pastor, through, because you've pastored for over 40 years. I know, and I'm sure that you've been had some times in where you felt like um, giving up and just kind of walking away. Can you give a word of encouragement to some pastor, some leader, and even some person that still may be going through? They may not be a pastor, but still may be struggling with one thing or the next. Can you give a word of encouragement as we close out today?
Well, one of the things, and I was getting ready to share with you before, is that during this time, and even before, there should have been time spent for self care, uh, taking
Mm,
care of themselves spiritually, mentally, emotionally, volitionally, and physically, which they have not been. And this depression has become a common factor in the ministry because a lot of pastors don't take sabbaticals, they don't take rest, and they don't understand how to pull away and become totally disconnected from the ministry assignment long enough to get some inner healing and some inner, because I
right,
mentioned earlier about the ones that have committed suicide. Pastors are committing
right,
suicide, they're quitting because even before this pandemic, but with this pandemic, it has gotten increasingly worse. So they have to
right.
go back to what I said to you earlier, is revisit their call,
Mm,
uh, the ministry to which they have been called. It hasn't changed. The
right,
dynamics of it has changed, but they have to maintain their commitment to what God has called them to, what they've committed themselves to, the church. Those things have not changed. Everything around them have changed, and they've got to find a way to navigate through this because this will pass. I hope they don't pass with it. So they got to reevaluate what it is that they were called. See, a lot of them, the ministry was easy when there was not a challenge,
yeah,
but now there's a challenge now. Every ministry, mega or many, are challenged. Pastors are challenged now. What do I do? And if they are not really rooted and committed to what they've been doing, they're going to quit. They could quit,
right.
or they would wither in it because they don't have any support bases. And a lot
Mm,
of them don't have close friends. They don't have close ties around them to keep them, focused. And many of them are falling apart. I listened to our Mission Miami group last week, and a lot of the pastors in the Southwest, I mean, they're climbing the wall because, one decided not to close his church during the
wow,
pandemic. And, some people got sick and all that, but he still said God didn't tell him to close the church.
wow,
And he took some risk because he felt he needed the members to come and give and yah, yah, yah.
right.
And so that was his answer, why he did it, because he felt forced, pushed to do it. But I would say to pastors, particularly those who are going through this and even beyond this moment, is to revisit their commitment to
Hmm.
what they've been called and what it takes now going forward to maintain a healthy approach to it.
Right.
Uh, because it's different now. Even when the church reopens, there are going to be restrictions and
Mm,
limitations.
right. Right. That's amazing. That's great.
Yeah.
Bishop, thank you so much, man,
All
for your
right.
time.
Okay.
And we're looking forward to meeting you, just talking with you again, man. If you're open to having another conversation with us and sometime in the near future. Thank you
Okay.
so much, Bishop, man, for your time, and man, we're praying for you and your family. And
Okay.
please tell your wife that we said hello,
All right.
and we look forward to seeing you soon.
All righty.
Okay, Bishop.
All
All
right.
right. Bye bye.